Hello, welcome to another episode of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition live forum. I'm your host, David Dadekian, a small business owner here in Rhode Island. I own Eat Drink Rhode Island, and we've got a great guest with lots of questions to talk about today. But before we get into that, I want to just give you a brief update on the coalition. As always, head to rismallbusiness.org to sign up for the coalition newsletter, where you'll get all this information. But we had our first official board meeting last week. We are a 501c6. I want to make sure I have my letters and numbers right there, and are building up momentum for our portal, which will be launching soon. So as I said, if you go to rismallbusiness.org, you can sign up for the newsletter. You'll be the first to get notified. As always, it's free to join. We will be having some membership tiers as we open up the portal and do things of that nature, but it's always free to join. We are the only all-free statewide small business or support organization in Rhode Island. So please check that out. If you're watching this on Facebook, please leave questions for our guest as we go through the show right now. And if you can't finish watching it, as always, these will be archived on Facebook, and we're going to start archiving them on YouTube and adding the podcasts going forward as well. So there's lots of ways to watch this show. So today we've got our first repeat guest. We've got Commerce Secretary Stefan Pryor with us. Welcome, Mr. Secretary.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to be your first repeat guest. That is an exciting distinction.
Technological delay. We did. There he is. Hello, Stefan. Nice to have you on.
Hi, glad to be on.
So yeah, I just said it. You are our first repeat guest. We've been doing this for a little over a year now. You were our first guest, as chance would have it, a little over a year ago in May of 2021, and now you're our first repeat guest.
I'm truly honored.
Well, we're happy to have you. It's obviously. The Commerce Department is key to business in Rhode Island, and so it makes perfect sense for it to have you as well. But also, you will soon be leaving that office, as anyone who's seen the news in the last week. You'll be moving on from Commerce to run for treasurer. So we'll talk about that today as well. Absolutely, we've got lots of questions for that. But let's start with Commerce. Let's talk about the state of events here. 1 year on since we last spoke, certainly in a much better place. In many ways than we were a year ago, but also some, problems still. I don't want to sugarcoat it. There's definitely some issues. I mean, inflation is a lot of the small businesses I work with are grappling with that. I know that some of these things are completely out of your hands, but I still want to hear your thoughts and ideas on things like that. Supply chain issues. I saw a story this morning that popcorn in movie theaters is running low now. It's weird how there's all these different things. So give us a brief recap of how you see things are right now and the past year.
Absolutely, David, and truly thank you for having me back. And it's been an honor to participate in your Small Business Coalition's process and this program. And wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I will continue to be a major advocate for small business, working to implement small business programming and to help you all continue to grow and prosper. So thank you. We are in a better place than the last time we talked. The economic recovery in Rhode Island is strong. Now I'm going to describe that, but David, only with this caveat that still too many small businesses are struggling. This is true across the country, India.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, right. It is not unique to Rhode Island. Yeah, we're in the past, sometimes we've had the gripe that things weren't going as well here as it was in other parts of the country, but right now it's really countrywide and worldwide, as you said. Yeah,
it is. According to Moody's Analytics, we have the strongest economic recovery in the Northeast. They rank and re-rank the states, and we really are experiencing a strong economic recovery coming out of the COVID downturn. We're in the top 10 in the United States. Our ranking right now is number 7 in the whole country for the strength of our return to normals, their back to normal index at Moody's. This is very good. And they look at a variety of indicators: unemployment, GDP growth, even bookings at restaurants on Open Table. So they're looking at the economy in a multidimensional way, and including small businesses like restaurants, as when they say we have the strongest recovery in the Northeast, and we're very proud of that. By the way, we're number 7 in the United States. Massachusetts is 45th,
really,
out of 50. New York is 50th. So we really have distinguished ourselves as a state with a strong recovery. Now, are there stores, restaurants, haircutters, smaller businesses that are professional service providers, travel agencies that are still getting back to where they were? For sure. And we've got to do more. And I'm proud of the fact that under Governors Raimondo and McKee, with a heavy emphasis on the recent rounds of relief under Governor Dan, we have been offering support for small businesses to make sure that even as there is this increased prosperity, and Rhode Island leads the way in the region, there's specific relief to the businesses that are still struggling. So I want to point out that we do have this round of relief that's going out. The feds make it as hard as humanly possible. I have to put it that way. I mean, they really make it difficult. They don't mean to. And our congressional delegation is the best. It's not about them, to distinguish. And by the way, the White House advocates and passes the right policies. But we do have a round of relief that's going out. Over 1,800 checks of $5,000 or $2,500 are out or are in process for payment. Over $8 million in this most recent round. We've done 4 or 5 rounds of relief now over the 2 governors' tenures. And David, I have to say thank you to the coalition for getting the word out, for helping to test pilot the technology. That doesn't mean that you've signed off on the federal policies. None of us have.
No, right.
To help us troubleshoot. Big kudos to Chris, who is absolutely exceptional as a leader in the coalition, to Jen Ortiz, who's always taking on individual cases and helping wind them through the process. I mean, David, this coalition that you are a key leader of, it's how we're getting it done. But 1,800 small businesses so far, $8 million out the door or on its way out the door. We also have some other programs I want to remind you of and say it briefly. There's a special program for hotels, hospitality, tourism, including travel agents and tour operators and arts and culture, and that is also getting money out the door. Over $1.5 million to date and growing. Our Take It Outside program is getting going. So we're pleased that, and it's very important that we continue to not rest on our laurels that the recovery is strong. No way, no how can we do that. Continue to provide the direct assistance to businesses that are inherently still struggling in this national scene where small businesses are coming from behind. Another point of reference, and then I'll pause and take any questions. David, Governor McKee has a small business package in the budget for this year. It's a budget article, first in memory, devoted budget article for small business. Just to remind everyone what's in there, and with our great friends, Speaker Shekarchi and Senate President Ruggiero, and the finance chairs of both houses, we're hoping to see progress on some of these points, and we're very optimistic because they're all devoted to small businesses. But what I want to say is the incredibly punitive fine on delinquent taxes has to change, especially as we come out of the pandemic, because there are businesses that are struggling, small businesses that are not making their taxes exactly as intended, despite their best intentions. And we've got to get the 18% fine at least down to 12% to be competitive with our neighbors. So it's reasonable and it's not so onerous, so burdensome. There's a measure in there that will help to get the cottage food industries of our state, meaning home baked products, will make them permissible for sale. And that will enable more businesses to grow and thrive in our state that prides itself. Eat, Drink, Rhode Island, ladies and gentlemen, that prides itself on our culinary scene.
I've been part of those conversations, and it's hopeful. I do think we may end up not seeing that past this session. It's been a very complicated issue for health and lots of different parts. I don't want to say there's any one roadblock, but hopefully, yes. I think it's a great project for people to try and tackle on their own at home, if they can. So we'll see if that passes.
Agreed. And FYI, it may or may not, and we may have to come back at it next year, but there is increased staffing support for the Department of Health in that provision.
Which is
acknowledging, Totally. So anyway, I could go on and on
Yeah,
about
no,
that
I mean,
package. Let me
I would,
pause actually there and just
yeah,
say there is a small business package. Kudos to Governor McKee and Lieutenant Governor Matos for placing that package into the budget. I hope everyone will, take a look in the small business community, see if we can do a last push on it. And then if some of it doesn't pass, as you just said, David, try again next year,
exactly.
as with cottage food, if it ends up that way. But there's a lot to be grateful for, even in the midst of continuing challenge, even crisis for some small businesses. And I just look forward to continuing to work with you all to make sure that we continue to distinguish ourselves as a state that recovers with strength, but also in an inclusive way that definitively includes small businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've discussed the small business package with a lot of our guests over the last almost 5 months now since it was announced and it's gone through going through the finance committees. There's lots of great stuff in there. You also the idea of a an ombudsman, sort of a tax assistant person
for
role.
the tax division.
Yeah, in the division, I think is a great idea. Hopefully that gets through. We've talked about that a lot with we've had several reps on and
So
senators, and we've
I'll
got
tell
another
you
rep.
that idea had, every good idea has a lot of mothers and fathers, but I'm proud of the fact that in meetings we held with the CPA Association and with you all, the Small Business Coalition, over time, we in Commerce had proposed this concept of a taxpayer liaison, taxpayer emissary that would actually be professionally located in the tax division.
Right.
We proposed that in our Rhode Island Innovates 2.0 report right before the COVID pandemic hit.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
And we're so pleased to see it be a consensus idea that the tax division itself is in favor of.
Exactly.
And they're wonderful. I mean, but I'm saying they've helped to shape it now, and we've got to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think also the lowering the corporate minimum will also
do it. Got to chip away at it.
Yeah,
every chance we get.
Right, just chip away. Exactly. I mean, yeah, we at the coalition have floated the idea in the future, perhaps making it a sliding scale. The more income revenue a business has, the more they pay, and things like that. I think that's the thing that obviously you've been in government for many years, but I think a lot of folks that don't aren't part of this all the time have to understand that these things take time. Unfortunately, in some cases we don't want them to take time. We want to see some quick progress, but these things do take time, and there's a cycle, there's a process. Like I mentioned, if something doesn't pass this year, there's always next time. So yeah, I think there's lots of great opportunity there, and it seems again, from conversations that we've been having, it feels as if the budget process is going pretty smoothly this year as things go. I know you and I have commiserated in the past. I know you floated the idea once. I had first or second year you were on the job. I remember you said, "Why can't it be a 2-year budget cycle?"
Yes.
I can just see your head was like, "I can do this again." And so I think it's fascinating to go through this process and to see, and maybe we will get to a 2-year cycle one day or things of that nature. But there is a lot going on, and it does feel as if this year is going, as it should, in this type of environment, relatively smoothly and relatively conflict free, because we do need to just keep moving things forward.
Yes.
So you mentioned some of the grant programs. I do know that we've talked to some of our members in the last few days, and the distressed business checks are starting to go out. Many of our members fall into those categories, like you mentioned, hospitality, hotels, travel. So those checks are going out, which is great. I know, like you alluded to, the process was a little longer than anyone wanted because of a lot of the federal restrictions. But hopefully we see all those checks getting out very soon, and certainly it's something that's taken care of and putting money into pockets of small businesses soon.
Yes. Can I put in a quick note about if you're listening and you're a small business person and you're trying to establish what your status is in any of these programs, or you need some help? Can I put something out there, David?
Yeah, please, of course.
Okay, so please call our helpline at Commerce, 521-HELP. If you just want to obtain some information, you want to find out your status, you want to ask a question, and someone will get back to you and assist you. Also, if you prefer email, or you just want to write out an explanation of what you're trying to find out, or you want to forward an email you've gotten regarding a program, here's the email address: RI small biz with a Z, rismallbiz@commerceri.com. So 521-HELP or rismallbiz@commerceri.com. If you have questions, for example, if you're in the RI Rebound Small Business Grant Program for up to $5,000 and you have a question, or you want to, again, check on status, or you're having a problem with the federal SAM.gov process, a lot of people are.
Yeah.
It's a national requirement, not our idea, but still we want to help you locally. Then please reach out. And if you just don't know, if you haven't heard in a while or haven't seen an email, maybe it by mistake got filtered out, or it's in your junk category in your email, reach out to us.
Yeah,
please.
No, it's absolutely a very good point. We've definitely had some members in the last few weeks that did connect, did email and call, and in a couple cases, unfortunately, they were put into a fraud category because there is so much fraud out there. Unfortunately, sometimes real cases get put into fraud as well. It happens. So it's good that they followed up, and it's good that they were able to say, hey, no, I really am a legitimate small business here, and they got taken care of. So yeah, thank you for that information. Thank you, Ben, for putting that up on the screen there. Before we switch gears into your running for office, let's just briefly, it's kind of your exit interview, because you're going to be out of the job of Secretary of Commerce in a couple of weeks. 6 years,
7.5.
I'm sorry. Yes. What am I doing? Yeah, I
COVID.
Did the math wrong.
It warps our sense of time.
7.5 years. That's right. You've been there since 2014. Yeah. What do you have to say, sort of on your way out? I mean, I think, first of all, you're the first Secretary of Commerce for the state.
Yes.
But clearly, you may be the longest tenured. Who knows going forward?
Allegedly, I am the longest tenured of any economic development official people can remember. They've done a little bit of research on it. Apparently, I'm like significantly longer than anyone who's held a similar post in Rhode Island.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for coming and doing that. I know
Rhode
Island was new to you when you came here. So now it's home, obviously.
It sure is.
This much time later. Yeah. Yeah. Tell us what do you think about when you think about the last 7.5 years? What are your thoughts?
Well, going back those 7.5 years, we were still emerging from the Great Recession.
Right.
Lingering after effects of the Great Recession were much too significant. We had the highest unemployment rate in America going back to, right before the Raimondo administration took office. And really, it was inexplicable. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to get into this job is to see if we could make the kinds of investments, make the kinds of decisions, get the kind of forward motion that would change that. Because how can we possibly explain how a state as gorgeous as Rhode Island, with the amazing small businesses, the terrific concentration of larger businesses, with many of them civic-minded, headquarters even,
right,
with the ports that we've got and the beautiful beaches and parks that make it livable, and then cities that are, in many cases, really viable and vibrant, with all of that arts and cultural activity. I don't have to tell us why we're a great place, but it's
highway access.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
highway access. Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. With all of that, how could we be the worst economy in the country? And indeed, we're not any longer, not even close. As a matter of fact, we saw in Governor Raimondo's tenure one of the biggest drops in unemployment in the whole country. Then again, under COVID, when everyone's had unemployment escalate, we once again were in the top 5 drops in unemployment in the country across these 2 governors now. There's been terrific efforts, and we've seen a top 5 drop in unemployment in the country. And I just explained at the top of the program, according to Moody's, on a multi-indicator way of analyzing this, we have the strongest recovery in the Northeast. So we're not the first in, last out of this particular downturn.
Right.
We are leading the way out.
Which,
and we've got to keep it
I think it's good that you said that. I think a lot of people think about that sometimes when they think about Rhode Island.
Yes.
Is first in, last out, and it's not the case this time. Right.
It's just not the case this time, and all the indicators are, when taken together, leading to the conclusion that we're on strong footing. But we can't take it for granted. One of the lessons, I think, is that we have to continue carefully and surgically removing regulations that are unnecessarily in the way of small businesses and all businesses. We've got to keep pruning the
Yeah.
corporate minimum tax, the cottage food rules that don't really make a lot of sense, and where we're a rarity among states in regulating home-based baking, which will contribute. We've got to keep chipping away at these taxes and rules that are holding us back, and we've got to make the sound investments, starting with small businesses,
Right.
that they really are the lifeblood of our economy. Lots of people run around the country and the world talking about that. Rhode Island, we are predominantly an economy made up of small businesses, and fantastic small businesses. I mean, we define the culinary scene for the country in many, many ways. We have some of the most innovative shops and stores, and some of them sell online across the country with fantastic gift items and core goods for families. And I don't we're about small businesses in this state, and they're very important larger businesses. So we've got to keep investing in small business programming, not just during the tough times, not just during the once in a lifetime pandemic, we all hope anyway, but also in the good times when it still is harder very often,
Right,
for vulnerable small businesses to make their way. We've got to have that support structure. So anyway, the lesson I'm expressing here is we have to pledge to ourselves that we're going to continue deliberate effort from a regulation perspective and an investment perspective to stay at the lead of our region.
Yeah, and there are certainly things, I mean, we look at commerce. Obviously, commerce's role is not just small business, but as you mentioned, it's a key part of Rhode Island. But you do have to, expand across all businesses, larger corporations, things of that nature.
Yes.
I hope we can find ways, innovative ways sometimes. Sometimes there's tax incentives for these large corporations, understandably, looking at the national level, that maybe somehow we can find ways to make work for small businesses and things of that nature. It's a tricky process. And I think, I think overall, looking at it, 7.5 years, I hope you're happy with your tenure. I mean, it's impressive.
Very grateful.
That is the
I
longest.
am very grateful.
Like all of us, I'm sure you think of moments that, you aren't as proud of, cooler or warmer, maybe. But hey, I think, realistically speaking, we have to look at these things from an optimistic viewpoint. And Rhode Island does seem to be optimistically moving in the right direction.
Yes. So now on the tourism front, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
On tourism, a good example of where, there's always hiccups, always stumbles, small, big. There are going to be some of those.
Yeah.
But what's important is you learn from them, you move forward, and you take Rhode Island to a new, better place.
Exactly.
And that's what I think the team under two different governors has done.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah. And tourism is, as we just passed Memorial Day, get into the summer, is going to be a big boom.
Yes.
Hopefully, people out there being tourists remember to be kind to all these small businesses that may be understaffed and may not have the resources that they wish they had right now. That is the reality.
Yes.
So, all right, let's switch gears into your running for state treasurer.
Yes.
You announced last week. Congratulations on making that decision and going through that process now. So we've got your primary. September 13th is the primary date.
Yes.
So you will have to that election first.
Yes.
And generally in Rhode Island, that tends to be for roles such as treasurer, that tends to be the big date. So we'll watch that as the next few months go by. Tell us about your thoughts. I give us your brief stump speech for us all here.
Sure. Well, thanks for raising it. And right now, I'm still focused on continuing to finish up my tenure as Commerce Secretary. But I'll say this: whatever position I'm in, my goal is going to be to focus on small business and to ensure that there are programs and there are forms of relief and there's access to capital, meaning financing, for a small business that can carry small businesses through the good times and the bad. And I do think that the Treasurer's Office is a location that can be a permanent home for programming that benefits small businesses, a bit insulated from the very understandable but very predictable gubernatorial politics.
Right.
A separate home with its own authority and its own devotion to small businesses. I think that can be a big part of what it does. I also think that office needs to keep its eye on the prize, its focus on the key mission that it's charged with, which is making sure that we have a stable pension system
Right.
for the public servants of our state who retire, and a very stable financial system generally, that our state's finances are strong. We're blessed with major surpluses, $800 million plus right now in surplus, in part catalyzed by significant federal investments.
Right.
So we can't assume that that will occur on a continuing basis. It won't. So we need to ensure a strong financial footing for our state. And that's another key aspect of what I intend to do, whatever position I'm in.
So let's expound upon that a little bit, because, like you said, it's the key role of that office is the pensions, the 529 plans, all those types of investment funds, essentially, that will keep the state solvent, and less so plans for not that you certainly can bring in other parts of that. You make the role what you want to make it, but less so about businesses and things of that nature. Even though treasurer seems like it should be that. How do you think you can bring in those types of programs and plans to help small business in the way that the state pension fund helps all those public employees?
I think through deliberate action, through planning, through proposals to the General Assembly, through securing of funds, and through operating those programs, we'd want to do this in concert with, complementary with, the work at Commerce. Obviously, right. I care a lot about that going well, and other offices too, the Secretary of State's office. There's a lot of participants, municipalities, a lot of participants in, if things are done right, in the support of small business. But I think the Treasury could be a special place where the devotion to the task could be independent of what economic cycle we're in, bringing the expertise of the personnel in finance to bear. Obviously, people who are devoted to the work on pensions, they should be focused on that work, because that is crucial. There will be no taking our eyes off that particular mission. But I think that we can build out an infrastructure that will be of permanent support to small businesses, again, complementing what's happening elsewhere. I also think, while we're talking about it, I think there's work to be done about helping individuals, households, and small businesses access the banking system. So there are examples around the country where communities, cities, towns, states have helped to bring banks together to eliminate the barriers to entry for individuals, households, and small businesses. For example, minimum balances, some of the fees that can become onerous and punitive around, including the maintenance of a minimum balance, but other kinds of features of a checking or savings account or other banking products. I think we can work cooperatively with banks and credit unions to create a better environment for, again, smaller businesses, for lower income and middle income Rhode Islanders. That's another piece of work I think can occur within the Treasurer's office.
That's fascinating. I mean, there certainly is the need. We've spoken with support groups in the past, the SCORE and the Center for Women Enterprise, and yeah, that I think that concept of helping connect minority and women-owned businesses with the banks in a better and more efficient way certainly sounds like a plan that could work for a lot of businesses. I think important. We're always trying to empower people more, and taking away some of those barriers would certainly help with empowerment there, because it's less so much about complexity nowadays. I mean, everything's online. You can get online and open an account. Anyone can do that now. But they have to have that access, and they have to have that understanding.
They do.
And so I think that's a great idea. It's a great thing to vocalize there. So we've seen, sometimes, the different offices will, engage with a package of bills and go to the General Assembly during the session and talk about it. Clearly, we've seen Seth do this a few times more recently, a little more publicly, but, I don't want to be cynical, but he's running for office, so good for him. You've certainly got great experience with that. I mean, I've seen you, we've been in the same committees and talked in front of the same committees. So how do you see that as that role is in trying to move that forward? I mean, is that something that you want to see more of? Is because
being before the General Assembly and advocating policy? Yes. Yeah. No, I think that the Treasurer's office will be a voice in the General Assembly, if I were to be so fortunate as to be in that office, a voice for the fiscally responsible and pro-financial growth measures that would make sense for our state, how to make sure we continue to see surpluses, how to withstand economic downturns that inevitably will occur. I hope not soon, but inevitably will occur. And there are warning signs out there. Ever strengthening our pension system and protecting the retirees who are our valued public servants, and small business programming, an economic vision for our state, how to ensure that we continue investments that lift up small businesses and lift up our economy in general, and even help larger companies and enterprises and institutions, including educational institutions and our medical systems. How do we ensure that we have a good economy for all the above, starting with small businesses? So what's our vision for the growth of the blue economy, or ocean-related investments, ocean-related technologies and businesses, small and large? For bioscience, businesses, small and large, startups, vendors to larger companies, and the larger players themselves. How do we ensure that we create a positive environment for them? Yes, if in whatever capacity I will continue to serve in this state, including if I were so fortunate as to be elected treasurer, you'll see me at the General Assembly and my colleagues from our team making the case for how to make sure we remain competitive in the Northeast, indeed in the country and world, with an eye on small business and an eye on the entire economy.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I asked that question is, I understand how the government works. I've been part of, this process for a long time. But a lot of people, the general layperson does not. And they don't understand that, the treasurer's office is not part of the governor's office, which oversees commerce and that sort of thing. How do and as we move forward, obviously we all, we understand those delineations. We understand the different departments. But it's a modern era. It's the era when an email or a phone or whatever is immediate, and you can get someone in the department and discuss those sort of things. How do you see that sort of interaction working? Because I think you're coming out of commerce, you have all that experience with commerce,
yes.
But it's now you're hopefully in a role that is not connected with commerce directly. How do you see that working?
There are some natural ways it automatically works structurally. So I've been focused on some of the programming that would be compatible with and complementary to commerce. I want to note that there's some other key domains where it's inherently going to work well: housing and infrastructure, all of which is very related to the economy. So the treasurer, should I be so fortunate, the treasurer serves on the board of Rhode Island Housing and serves on the board of the Infrastructure Bank. So those are two ways in which the treasurer's office will inherently be involved in helping to promote the development of all housing, inclusive of definitively affordable housing and workforce housing for Rhode Islanders. That's been a very important issue for me. I've helped to frame the $250 million proposal that Governor McKee has brought forward to the General Assembly for investment in housing affordability. So I'd like to see that come to life. Infrastructure, obviously, municipal infrastructure, water and sewer infrastructure, these things are instrumental to ensuring that we have a strong economy, to building the literal and figurative foundation for economic growth. And then there's work across small business and all business-related issues. And there, I think it's got to be an interplay of different agencies. And one of the things that we've done in the COVID era, a number of your participants in the coalition have been part of this process. Chris certainly has been. David, you've been in many, many forums. We always include Commerce, Treasury, Secretary of State, and then there's Center for Women and Enterprise and the Small Business Development Corporation and the multiple partners, whether it's the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Rhode Island Black Business Association, governmental and nonprofit, a coalition of actors, if you will, to move forward together. I'd like for the Treasurer's Office to play an even more assertive, even more proactive, even more cooperative, even more vigorous, even more energized role, and propose ideas where there are gaps. What financing programs need to exist that don't exist in the good times when we don't have COVID money? How can we resource them? What kinds of regulations need to be chipped away that haven't been conceived yet? So, but again, there's major domains where this treasurer already structurally plays a role. So there'll be a lot of opportunity. The one thing I also should mention, one additional thing, is school construction. Obviously, school construction is important because we must have high quality environments for our young people to learn. That contributes to the economy, to a well-educated workforce, well-positioned workforce, but also construction jobs.
Right.
And obviously, the treasurer plays a key role, a co-chair role in the school construction effort of the state as well. So there's many ways in which this will play out.
Yeah, I think it's always fascinating when we have guests on the show. When we bring up topics like housing or education, which don't feel like small business topics, but they are, and that's the thing. I think a lot of our members know, but you have to sometimes point it out. Yes, there are. We have more housing. We're going to have better employees. More employees, which we're at a deficit of right now. Construction businesses, often construction businesses, they're small contractors, they're small businesses. It really is all interconnected in many ways, and even more so because it's Rhode Island.
We got it.
We have that advantage here. We can, quickly and easily find someone that we need in Rhode Island, and if we don't know them personally, only a couple degrees of separation usually.
That's
here
exactly right.
We
have to use that to our advantage.
Exactly right. So I know you're gonna have to run. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here today. Good luck with everything. I'm sure I'll be seeing emails and flyers and all of that as we get into the summer months of an election year.
Yes.
So good luck with it. I wish you well, and I hope you keep your sanity about you.
Thank you very, very much, David, and thank you to the entire coalition. We'll be working together much more. Whatever path we all take, we will be partners on a permanent basis. So thank you again for your great efforts. I appreciate being on the program, David.
Thank you. Take care. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I always have a good time talking with Secretary Pryor. It's certainly a knowledgeable person, and I wish him well with his race. We've got some great guests coming up on the show. We've got just coincidentally, Treasurer Seth Magaziner is going to be with us on June 28th. He's running for United States Congress. And then Joy Fox, who's running against him for United States Congress, will be on the show in July. But we've got Representative Karen Alzate next in 2 weeks to discuss this year's session. And then we've got Ashley Kalis, who's also running for office. She's running for governor. She's coming up in August. And we hope to have a couple more candidates before the primary in September. So as always, rismallbusiness.org to sign up for the newsletter and find out everything that's going on here. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.